makes you wonder how many people are out walking around out there that are fully demonized and that they're maybe somewhere trapped inside of a simulation.
His guides tell him that our asylums of today, the crazy people, they're filled up. It doesn't say how many, but it says they're filled with people who went to the astral shadow world so much that when they come back, they forget the difference between past, present, and future and go crazy, and that's why they're insane.
The world keeps lying, but he won't retreat on his quest for truth. Yeah. Truth, quest for truth. They can't stop me, they can't block me. Moving through, got that fire, they can't block me. Quest for truth, breaking chains, making waves. That's what I do. When they hate, I create.
Let's get into it. So last time we talked a little bit about the idea of traveling to the astral realm, how people have recorded meeting entities there, recorded getting marching orders, some people being kicked out of the astral realm. And your thesis behind this is that there's entities controlling every step of that order. And so we're going to continue our conversation. You had things you wanted to hit on further and actually talk about that we didn't get to talk about last time. So I'm going to give you the floor, dude, and I'll insert questions as needed. So
yeah, please interrupt whenever. I'm gonna rant endlessly until you do. Yeah, okay. we didn't get through. We got through almost half of the material, and I can speed through some of it pretty well. But it is. I think we ended off talking about the hive mind situation. Well, the Bible stuff is where we ended. 1 Kings 22, but that's usually the end of my presentation. So we're going a little bit out of order, but it's not a big deal. I just want to give you
the hive mind thing too, to give people, like, if they didn't see the first one, if you look at a lot of the symbolism that the ruling class uses, beehives, bees.
Oh yeah,
this is huge. Even on the some of the older,
the ancient Egyptian stuff
garments,
is heavy on it.
Yeah, and the old garments, like even in the British Empire, the garments had little what they called bees on some of their cloaks, and so there's definitely something to that.
Yeah, they're not using that with willy-nilly. You know, there is a hidden meaning to it, and it has to do with their nature and overall structure to their system on the other side, I believe, based on all the data. Now, and parts 2 and 3 material, you know, gets into more of like how that makes sense with all the operations taking place. That's the only explanation that explains everything is the hive mind, which they kind of admit to in many ways, which we're going to get into. So yeah, I'm just going to read more excerpts from Kurt Leland's Otherware book and mixed with Robert Monroe's trilogy, his out-of-body series. And these are the Monroe stuff, like I said before, is the most popular out-of-body books there are, and somehow people miss these things or don't talk about them in this framework. And Kurt Leland is a Monroe Institute contributor who is less popular, less well-known, his work is, but it's very insightful in the lore there. So we already covered how simulations are admitted to be had. They just say, oh, these are simulations, and then the astral realm you go to, no, that's real, we promise. But they're
do me a favor, give a background on Monroe one more time, since there's going to be people that are listening to this that probably won't go back to the other one, or if they do, it may not be till later. So explain Robert Monroe for people that don't understand.
He's dead now. I think he died in the 90s, early 2000s, but he is the most influential out-of-body traveler of all time. He wrote 3 books on his experiences, Journeys Out of the Body, Far Journeys, Ultimate Journey, you know, repetitive name usage. And he created the Monroe Institute after years of out-of-body travels, where it has become this kind of psychic wizard school for Harry Potter wannabes who go there for, it's a lot of New Agers. It's New Ager stuff, and they basically practice remote viewing, out-of-body travel, entity contact, connecting with your spirit guides, merging with them. Totally not a demon impersonating them, but, you know, who knows? And just doing all of the psychic stuff and having a good, wholesome time with it. And they have been doing this for decades. It's been run by some sketchy people. They have connections to government black programs, according to alleged whistleblowers involved with these things, or victims from MKU abuse and stuff of that nature. So there's a little bit of sketchy correlations there that I'm just alleging right now. But yeah, it is. He seems like a well-intentioned man from what I've read. I don't know if there's any darker sides to what's going on, but he is what I believe to be a useful idiot and asset for the demonic realm, using him and giving him more crazy than average experiences because he's become such a valuable asset to their agenda, and getting people normalizing out-of-body travel, letting people know anybody can do it. And he's he's brought it into the culture more so than anybody else in the modern era, at least. And that's why he's such an asset and so important. And his work is admittedly sketchy at times. And if you watch part one or what we did before, you'll already see quite a few admittances of them being basically sock puppets in this realm where they don't have much control at all. The last few things I touched on actually were showing how much they control where you go, how you move, what you're thinking, like what you're going to learn. For the most part, you have very little autonomy, even though they don't really like to talk about that often. They admit it everywhere in the details. So, and there's more we're going to get to very soon about that.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. It's interesting too how they control all that. It makes you wonder what is going on in your body while they're controlling this little simulation that you're rolling through.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably just sitting there, but I do believe many people, after having astral attacks from certain entities, which is all theatrics ultimately, they'll come back and physically awake from an astral abduction or attack or psychic attack from an entity, sleep paralysis, whatever it may be, and they'll have real bruises, marks, emblems, calculated stuff, which I talk more about in part 3, the reincarnation stuff, because there's physical manifestations from these astral experiences at times, and that's important for people to understand because the worlds do bleed into each other to whatever degree, and that's why we're told not to do this stuff, because it opens doors and it is not bueno. But yeah, if you don't mind, brother, I'm going to hop into the next excerpt where I left off, and it's regarding the memory, the Akashic records of Bob's own life. So he's going to access his own personal Akashic records, his own memory banks, which, most of our memories are forgotten or subconsciously buried, or we don't remember details very well. But he's saying, I can access all of it in great detail, no matter what. So this is one of his quotes from his books where he says, where he's looking for his own memories. And he says, I immediately encountered the expected, a layer or file, library or mainframe containing every moment of my life to date, with more pouring in that matched exactly my thoughts and actions as I conducted the investigation. This was far more than memory as we consciously think of it. Upon selection of any given point in the past, I relived the event in every detail, down to each minute sensory input, thought, and emotion. I soon realized that supermemory was not altogether pleasurable. With such intense hindsight, one becomes all too painfully and sadly aware of the many irrational decisions made, the stupid mistakes, and the missed opportunities. So, and I touched on last time how this is, if this is all facilitated by an external entity, then that's kind of flatly admitting that they also have this same access to your memories. And he starts, I'm not going to get into every detail, but he starts reliving some of these memories and remembering them kind of uncomfortably because, they have these awkward things. And it's too, like, you can't really bury or subconsciously these things when you're witnessing them in full force as these things. So if they can access all of our, emotions and thoughts through all of our memories, what does that mean with their data collection of their hive mind? And what is that used for in their planning and operations? I think it has a lot to play into everything ultimately.
It's interesting because I have a friend, and I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not so sure that he wants this information public, but
Okay.
So he has to go through therapies for a brain injury that he has, and they hook him up to this machine called a hemisync. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I
Okay.
have.
And the same thing you're describing of going through memories that he never knew or even remembered was happening to him through this hemisync that he was doing, dude. So
And they could be real and they could be implanted. That's the thing, because you're opening
yeah.
yourself up when you're getting into a theta brainwave state when you do hemisync. So I don't recommend it. And for example, Robert Monroe in his institute, I don't put this in my book, and I wish I did. I actually just remembered. He says he had a schizophrenic come in and use his binaural beats hemisync technology, which I think he's the guy who created it, or he's the guy who popularized it for sure. He is the guy. I forgot to say. He says that he had a schizophrenic come in and use it, and the only time the voices were ever silenced for them was during this hemisync process, which was then meant to get them out of body or have a spiritual encounter. So then you go, oh my God, is this maybe the cure? Is it a brainwave frequency thing that we have to use to cure schizophrenia? And they don't acknowledge it's spiritual harassment from demons, of course, because that would totally go against their new age viewpoints. So what I think is happening there, strategic laying off pressure, which I'll talk about a lot in future holistic healing material, is they strategically lay off pressure to make you think you found a cure, and then that gets you into divination and astral experiences. And they'll say, "Oh, we'll get rid of your voices, but if you do what we want, that's what I think is going on there. They're both bad for you, but it's a switching one poison for another." That's what I would point out.
He said that even the place that he was going, even suggested DMT
Oh
to him.
God.
This is crazy to me. I'm like, dude, you should record every bit of that because this is what. So Dr. Jack Cruz, I had him on
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
a
he's
few
cool.
days ago. Yeah, he got to go through a bunch of MK Ultra files and hemisync. I guess he says that like hemisync and some of these other things are like MK Ultra 2.0. This is what it
Yeah.
went from this further on to there. So it's
It's
wild, man.
disassociation technology. And when you
Yeah.
disassociate, especially when you're consenting to in a ritual with this magic, so to speak, you are consenting to, when you empty your mind with disassociation, you are consenting, whether you like it or not, to having it filled by somebody else. That is why I don't do disassociative meditation anymore. I rarely meditate anymore. I used to do it every day and try to disassociate. Transcendental meditation. Look up at some point transcendental meditation, anybody listening, and look at all the search celebrities promoting it and look at the list of people you'll see there and tell me it's not a little bit sketchy alone based on that delivery.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I don't recommend that stuff to anybody. It's there's better ways to heal, and it rhymes with bleezes. It's Jesus. That was dumb. Okay. Anyway, we got more here. There is in Kurt Leland's book, he talks about the three types of shadow worlds, and I'm going to read his quote and explain a little bit about it. He says they're waiting for the bus to the alternate was worlds, an astral bus, by the way, where they'll experience what things would have been like had they made choices at major turning points in their made other choices at major turning points in their lives. The other two lines are a benefit to the living rather than the dead, referring to astral travelers visiting because this is a place for dead people predominantly. It says the alternate is worlds may be visited by people who want to see what the present would be like if they had made different decisions at some point in the past. Alternate will be worlds give them a chance to see what consequences might develop from a decision currently under consideration. The alternate was system is the only one of the three shadow worlds that gets much use these days. People have forgotten that they can travel to the shadow world to help themselves make decisions about how to lead their lives. Now, what's happening here is he's saying you can go to a realm in the astral and it can show you different alternative timelines that could have happened, that don't exist, that aren't real, that are made up, but could have happened and would have happened if you had made this decision. And you can see the past, the present, and also you can see what the future will be like. So people say, oh, so we'll astrally travel there, find out what our future will be like if we become a healer or a mystic, or there'll always be a scenario. Usually that's something that the demons would want you to get into and make a major life decision. And basically it's you going in and then getting a simulation that's fabricated, which will guide you to make certain major turning points in your life, which is whatever they want you to. And they'll make you think it's going to work out. And the follow up prophecies might not really be fulfilled, but they'll already get what they wanted. And you'll trust the information as a potential future. So if it doesn't come true, oh, well, that was must have been a butterfly effect somewhere else, but it's legitimate information. It's an akashic records of things that never happened or will happen, but could have, which goes to show, is this more simulation? I mean, it technically has to be because it's not real, but it's alternate timeline, infinite universe material, which is expansive and non-biblical. And I think it's just more of a psyop. And there's another layer of it, which is his guides tell him that our asylums of today, the crazy people, they're filled up. It doesn't say how many, but it says they're filled with people who went to the astral shadow world so much that when they come back, they forget the difference between past, present, and future and go crazy. And that's why they're insane.
Give me a second. I want to recommend blue light blockers for those of you who enter the matrix and are in front of screens, in front of any kind of blue light tech. That includes LED lights. LEDs and blue light can be very harmful to the human body, and the eye is the window to the soul. These blue light blockers are designed specifically for questers. Check them out.
Now, what this is doing is making a terrible excuse to cover up schizophrenia and saying, no, these schizophrenics who are being harassed by spiritual voices, no, it's not, because they're actually crazy, and they went crazy because they astral traveled without guidance. There's always a guide there, actually, but they don't want you to know that. So they're saying whenever you're in the astral, make sure you have a guide, because if you don't, you'll go crazy and you'll end up in an asylum. So it's killing two birds with one stone as disinformation, also accounting for some cover up for schizophrenia, which is obviously, in my opinion, demonic harassment from spirits with clairvoyance and different layers of that. And I think acknowledging that goes a long way to getting rid of it, obviously. And these people are given pills to be drugged up. And it's funny because this concept is not talked about in Monroe's work at all, or any other of Robert Bruce, William Bullman, the other top astral travelers. I've never heard mention this place. So it's like, if all these thousands of people went crazy from it, how is it not mentioned by the top astral travelers? I think they're catering lore to different people. I hope that rant makes sense.
Absolutely, man. And it reminds me of, like, I don't know how much you've looked into the gate. world, the
A decent amount.
a decent amount. So a lot of these people are claiming now to in their dreams be visiting this school that it's like or a mall.
No, yeah.
It's a mall
Oh, the
world, and
ball
I don't
world? No
mall
way.
world, right? And so
Yeah.
they go there, and it's like kind of a this dilapidated mall, but it just sounds so similar. Like it's just this. I wonder what those people went through. I wasn't gifted enough to go through those programs. I'm somewhat dyslexic in many ways, so it's a good thing
A
in a
blessing
way,
and a curse.
a
Yeah.
blessing and a curse. But I didn't even know anybody that went through the program. I didn't even know about it. Like that's how far outside removed from that program I was. I had no idea. But apparently there's a lot of people that I know that went through that program, and they get triggered by certain sounds that they hear from it and all kinds of weird things.
Yeah, man, that's a result of various programming, which is layered in your subconscious and forgotten in the surface. But yeah, I've read quite a bit on that stuff. I've studied more of the direct MKU SRA stuff a little too much, and it's very insightful. But I think there's with and I talk about it in later editions more so. But those people, while I believe the abuse and the things they're going through is very real, there is a mixture of implanted memories with these people, such as the secret space program stuff, the Water Kingdom stuff, the moon trips things, and the whole purpose of that. There's many. It's one, if you believe none of it, if you hear the crazy stories they're bringing, you'll not believe the abuse stories, so it delegitimizes the entire thing. But it also benefits them because if you believe all of it, which some people do, then you now believe a lot of Gnostic lore that is disinformation embedded in these false visions and false memories. So mixed in with the real ones, making the whole thing, a total cluster of complication. And I don't expect most people to understand that, but I like to put it out there that that's absolutely something we need to keep in mind. And some people don't like to admit the fabricated memories thing, but if you're a Christian and you don't believe in that, you kind of have to admit, past life memories are real, which so many divergences in understanding there. But anyway, I'm going to keep on moving. We got I don't know if I need to read these. I can probably just summarize it. Actually, this one's crazy. I'm going to read it. This is from actually Robert Bruce, a different Rob, who is a famous astral traveler. He wrote Astral Dynamics. And he has two crazy things I'm going to talk about. One is entering paintings while in the astral. Okay. So he says, the projector then moves into the target rather than passing through it. This seems to trick the subconscious mind into creating a virtual astral realm. Not a demon, but your subconscious mind does it around the projected double, identical to that shown in the picture or mirror being approached. When you project, go towards the poster, keeping your mind blank. Don't think about what you're doing. Just gaze into it and move towards it. As you approach this way, your subconscious mind will be tricked into creating an astral realm exactly like the poster. Just move up and into the poster. It's like stepping into another world. Everything in this world will be exactly like in the poster. It will appear to be a normal 3D world, an exact copy, indistinguishable from reality. To customize this world, cut and paste small pictures of things or people you want to find in this world when you enter it. If you cut out a small picture of someone living or dead, your subconscious will create a thought form shell of them and they will be there waiting for you. This may be an excellent way of communicating with those who have died. Okay, so if anybody doesn't understand what I just said, it's absolutely bananas. He's saying if you can go into the astral realm, and then if you jump into a painting that you see in the real world in the astral, it will create a world around you that's generative by your subconscious, not an external entity, of course not. And you can also add in your dead loved ones, put their pictures there, and you can find them. And if you want to bang a lot of hot models, just put their pictures on this poster, and boom, you can bang a lot of hot astral models if you want. The logic is sound. But really what's happening here is they know what you want. They know what you're expecting. They are creating a simulation around it. They're expanding this whole infinite consciousness potential experiences. You can do anything type concept, but really they're just showing off their powers a little bit too much in a way that I think is revealing to their external control. Cause he's saying, no, it's all subconscious. That doesn't make any sense to me. And he says it can be a way to communicate with the dead, which if you put a picture of someone there, it might be a thought form of them. It might be of your own subconscious mind, but it might actually activate the real person to come forward and, seance them, which is problematic on many levels. I don't know if you you probably agree though.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think that the part about this that really kind of makes it all make sense for me is like I think that they have to be using some kind of frequency to manipulate your mind in such a way. So almost, or like they are the frequency that's able to manipulate your mind, because if people are using technology right now to do a lot of these things that they're already doing, to me that just means that your brain has to be in a certain state for them to be
Yeah.
able to use whatever frequency that is to manipulate or control. It just it makes you wonder what is the, of course you've talked about this, we talked about this, but people need to really be aware of what's the point, what's the purpose, why do they want to manipulate you into thinking that you can control this astral realm? It's
Yeah, if reincarnation's real, if the prison planet thing is true, if all of this cosmology coming out of astral lore is true, if there's infinite life out there and planets and dimensions everywhere, if that's true, like the astral lore says, why are they putting on deceptive theatrics, which are kind of verifiably so? In the book, I talk on it more, but when you cross-examine these astral experiences between people, such as cross-examining this stuff with like Emanuel Swedenborg's, which is a Christian quote-unquote mystic from the 1700s, his experiences diverge heavily in details. One way I'll quickly summarize that's funny is in Kurt Leland's book, his astral guides tell him that when you die, you have both a wiener and a vagina when you're in the astral, and you can interchange them if you want to have astral sex. And then for Robert Monroe, he says, no, you have no sex characteristics. It's all energy. It's all mashing your energy together. There's no genitals or anything. You're a spirit being. And then Emanuel Swedenborg says you retain your sex characteristics in the astral in the next life after you're a man or a woman. There's, which is a more Christian kind of concept. They're catering different lore to different people, and they don't expect you to cross-examine them. That's one of many examples where they diverge. So it's like, how can they all be telling the truth about the genitals, man? They're lying about the genitals. So you gotta figure it out. There's another thing, Robert. What's up?
They're probably manipulating it based off what the person actually wants. I mean, if they know a person's a bisexual, they're going to be like, look, yeah, exactly.
This guy's a genius. That's exactly right. I agree 100%. That's exactly the pattern they follow. It's like past life memories. They'll give you something you're more likely to accept. A lonely woman might get a past life memory of a man obsessing with her in a past life, and that's why something happened to her. There's a pattern of this. Anyway, there's another thing Robert Bruce talks about, which is it's very similar to the portaling through the painting thing. He says you can also go into mirrors. I'm just going to summarize it. He basically says avoid mirrors, reflective surfaces, even highly reflective water, because if you go into it, you will end up going into it as a portal and come out the other side as the reverse image mirrored world, where everything will be the same, but it'll be reverse and mirrored. Now, when I first read that, I thought he was full of crap and he was a liar. And I was like, there's no way. But I was doing my out of body stuff then. And I have a few silly stories that we can maybe get into later. But one I have is I tried this because I thought he was lying. And I thought I would just go through my mirror and end up the other side of the house going through the wall, And that is not what happened. My dumbass came out the other side and I was in a reverse image world, exactly like he said, in my room where I was projecting, and I saw my body reversed, and I see and it's not like a huge thing, it's just backwards, but it feels unnerving and weird. And I don't know if they were jacking into me, making me feel all scared, because I don't get scared, but I was feeling spooked from that whole scenario. And I'm looking at my body and I'm thinking to myself, wait, do I have to go back through the portal first, or do I go into my body now, or am I going to be in some alternate timeline dimension where everything's backwards? Am I going to be right-handed now and be dating a slightly different woman? Am I going to be gay and retarded? I don't know what's going to happen to me if I go to my body. These are the thoughts going through my head right now because I'm trying to make myself laugh in the astral. And I decided to go back through the portal mirror, and then I go back to my body because I got spooked like I was going to get stuck somewhere else, man. And that's how stupid I was for quite a time. So that's another thing that you can do. And also nobody else in the major authorship of astral travel has ever mentioned that either, which is also another strange thing. It's very catered to this one guy, it seems. So I don't know if you have any. Yeah, it's very interesting. And if you want to get even crazier, which we are, this one is from, I think it's, no, this is from Kurt Leland's book, and he talks about his guides telling them they're going to come test him when he goes to sleep tonight. They're going to give him his final test before he upgrades to the next level or some stupid stuff. And so he basically gets visited in his dream. In a dream, they're visiting him, so they're admitting they can do that, which I said it's all the same thing, different methods, different mechanisms. And he says he's in an unusually vivid dream, and he says, I became a single blade of grass. A strong wind blows me this way and that, and I feel exhilarated. All at once, I become aware that I'm surrounded by millions of other grass blades. I make a startling realization. I can simultaneously maintain an awareness of myself as a single grass blade and as a multitude of grass blades, yet my unique beingness has a precise location within the vast tapestry of grass that surrounds me. Very good, the overseer says. You learn quickly. We've designed a set of images and sensations in order to illustrate certain aspects of the human condition, he says. Our intention is to show you how the evolution of human consciousness looks from our perspective. So they just turned this dude into freaking grass and he ate it up. He loved it. He said,
Huh.
they can make you feel nutrients going in your body. He talks about that later. And he also, they're normalizing this whole hive mind concept with the grass being connected to each other, but being uniquely precise in one person. It's the same concept they're trying to normalize into his framework and into his culture, into this we're all connected, so possessing each other isn't that weird, right? That's the concept they get through. And to solidify that, they actually not only turn him into a grass blade, but afterwards they turn him into a flower and then a bee. He turns into a bee and goes into a bee hive, or into a hive, and is flying around. And he says it feels just like he was a bee. And we don't know what that feels like, but we know demons can possess humans, animals, and altars to soak up energy and wisdom or whatever, or worship or whatever it may be. So I don't imagine they can't create a simulation of a bee that it's not impossible. So they made him feel like a bee and fly around, which is the more the hive mind stuff again. That pattern. And then he downgraded to a raspberry, which is funny. And then he turned into a human gardener, which was interacting with all of these things in this dream where he was told he would be visited by guides. And this was his test to understand the evolution and connectedness of consciousness. And I'm not going to get to the whole story, but Robert Monroe in his book, he's traveling to the future in the year 3000 in the Astral. And there's a whole section I have on that. And it's very ridiculous and silly. And he ends up hanging out with his friend who's like, hey, you want to have some fun in the future? And he's like, yeah, sure. And their idea of fun is going around and possessing the bodies of various animals and entities. And they possess, what is it? He gets into a couple things. They also put him into a leaf and then a panther and then a bird. And they all say it feels like it's like they're literally living this life. Like it's perfect simulation. So again, showing their degree of control. And they make it seem like possessing different entities is all okay because we're all connected to one. So it doesn't matter. So normalization of these very effed up topics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at in the technological world, which I think that technology, magic, very similar, probably the information received, but when they are able to chip the brain, kind of like Elon's company, they have talked about the idea of being able to create any simulation possible.
Oh, really?
With these chips, so you can live within a simulation. It's kind of like the idea of
I got to put that reality. In my book. What?
It's like VR. It's like VR, but it's like your body is able to feel the things going on rather than just experiencing it through a headset. So like there's people talking about that, how that can be integrated into all of these things. So like that's the whole point, eventual future of VR. I don't know if you follow the VR world, but
not really.
But that is a big talk about that. Like a lot of people are really interested in how they can take it further. They're even trying to make new goggles that help your body integrate into the suits that are able to stimulate certain parts of your body, etc. So like they're moving forward that way. But this reminds me of like, because almost everything you see in the astral world, in my opinion, most of the things that you've mentioned, there's technology now that allows this to happen without ever having to meditate. You're literally there,
Now, and I didn't know about that simulation part of the whether it be Neuralink or his other technology, but that's interesting because, how do we know? And I'm not saying tech isn't capable of great and crazy, deep, elaborate things on the etheric level, even because they do connect and it is married to magic in a sense. But how do we know that you getting this technology isn't just consenting to higher involvement and higher merging with these entities who will then do the legwork of what that technology is advertised to do? We have to keep that in mind at all times because I think a lot of spiritual phenomena and experiences that people want to connect to tech, such as the God helmet experiments. I don't know if you know about that, but I think the God helmet experiments were a psyop from these entities where, yes, the technology is getting you into a brainwave state that's making you open and perceptive. But whenever people said, oh, we could, basically surgically and methodology wise, get people into consistent entity presence feelings, the feeling of God. And it was like a very secular, atheistic study. And it was like, oh, we have proof because we can stimulate this part of the brain and boom, they'll have a spiritual experience, but it's fake because we stimulated it. And it's like, or entities are waiting for you to do this, and they understand the concepts that you're laying out. So if they give you the experience right when you're in the open brainwave state doing divination, which you have every right, they have every right to involve themselves now. They're just giving you the exact same correlating data with each person so that you believe that you're causing it because it's brainwave states as opposed to an external entity. Because if you don't believe in external entities and you're an atheist, you're going to have a hard time adjusting to the near future and any study of information of this lore. So I think a lot of these technological experiments like the God helmet stuff, which was run by MK Ultra evil man involved in these programs, then I think you have to keep in mind entities will be there waiting, willing to involve themselves and give you data that seems to support whatever views are beneficial to their agenda at the moment, if that makes sense.
I think that's the whole point of these things. I think that we finally developed enough technology to the point to where they are able to now it's easier access to us as well as us having easier access to them. And I think that's the whole point. I think eventually they'd like to be able to merge in to our realm.
The veil's collectively thinning heavily and will continue to do so. So
right, exactly. So yeah, I think that's why the technology exists. It's not just, like you said, it's not just that, oh, you can simulate this idea. It's literally there. So it makes it accessible for everybody, because up to this point, before this, you had to be somebody who knew how to meditate, who was able to practice these arts to be able to get yourself into that realm. Now
it was less mainstream. Now it's since the internet age and the few decades before, all this stuff has been more pushed into the mainstream. When before it was like a cultist, and it was a cult. It was very secret. They kept it in their secret societies. They didn't want to share it, and now it's in the mainstream. Just I think on schedule. I think they wanted it to be secret for a time, and now that we're in this time period where we can be manipulated easier, and we're all dumbed down and unhealthy and spiritually starved, you can now instigate this whole propaganda machine at the right time.
Externalization of the hierarchy, man.
There you
That's
go.
what it is. Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, we got more crazy stuff here, man. This is another admitted simulation realm that we're going to talk about. And this is Robert Monroe. He talks about focus levels. He has different ones: focus 10, 12, 15, 21, 22, 23, 24. He skips numbers. He goes up to 50 something, but focus 27 is what we're talking about. And each focus level is basically apparently more of a mapping of this astral realm, a deeper trance state, which gets you into deeper realms, saying, oh, your state connects you to different realms. But it's all kind of, the mapping of it is different for everybody, and there's no real mapping it. It's just kind of they're catering to this guy. And focus 27 is an admitted simulation realm where, let me find the page because I just lost it. Yeah, where basically you can go here between your incarnations if you want to have your own hedonism, anything goes, create your own world. This is the Mormon heaven. This is where you're God, and you can create and have structure to everything around you. It's basically a lucid dream world where you can create. It's like a vacation home, and you can, do whatever you want there. And he goes there. He goes to his dead friend, apparently. His dead friend, I'm going to say George for now. And he sees George in between his incarnations, and he doesn't want to reincarnate right now. He wants to relax in his dream world. So he goes to this guy's dream world, and this guy's banging a thought form wife that is not a real person. And he's just, having his vacation home with this like robot lady who might be a demon in a, astral meat suit. And it's just, but the whole thing is theatrics for Bob. Like, these aren't real people, in my opinion. But he goes there, and he talks about Focus 27 saying anybody can go to their own. And he says each individual is invited to create his own personal and special place within Focus 27, a place to which he may return at will. These forms, the forms that these places take are as varied and unique as the participants themselves, ranging from log cabins by quiet streams to clumps of trees, South Sea islands, palaces of crystal, and corners of one's heart. Now, it's funny because the palaces of crystal thing is something you always hear about in alien past life memories. When they go to an alien planet and they remember, it's always a perfect society with no problems, no war, no religion, just spirituality and telepathic communities. And they all have palaces of crystal sometimes. So I just find that funny that it's connected. But it's
Superman.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's so corny now. But he says, and then he talks about guides that are there. So even though it's your own realm, somehow you're never alone. And they tell you this. And it says that the guidance that may be requested according to our participants in many different forms, it may appear externally or sensed internally. It may be constant through all the experiences or may change from time to time. Reports include a mention of a glowing white shape, an individual called Sam, a hooded figure who revealed himself as a famous film star, a little dog, or the color blue, a human hand, and voices saying, "We are here." Some participants do not see guidance as separate from themselves in any way. Guidance and I are one, as one report says. So one, again, these guides are always with you. Second, they're showing up here as goofy forms and cartoon characters, essentially, because this is the dream world. This is fake, so we want to make sure you know it's fake so that everything else in comparison looks more real. Just like how in episode 1, I talk about they dim your lucidity in the admitted simulation realms so that you believe when your lucidity is normal in the other realms that it's all real, because that's the difference is your lucidity. But why does that even make sense to be different in a simulation unless they're controlling it, which they are strategically at the right time? And this is, they're just trying to separate the two worlds, make sure you know this is fake so that the other stuff seems real in comparison. So they get really goofy with it. But this is what they say. And he says, astral travelers can go there, or if you're dead and you're in between incarnations, you can go here. But nobody in their in between incarnation memories, which by the way, we've accessed thousands via, regression and remote viewing style visions, they never mention this. So I just find that interesting that they don't gloss over. And that's more stuff I talk about in the book later. But yeah, I don't. That's just another place you can go. That's a simulation, but everything else is real. I promise. That's the message here. So it's a constant theme propping up here. And then let's see. Yeah, we got another crazy one. This is more of a scenario where they are doing theatrics to manipulate Bob once again, and this is. Let me make sure I'm reading the right spot. Yeah. So this is creepy, honestly. I don't like it. It's basically Bob is talking to his Godhead, which is a culmination of the multitudes of all of his past and future incarnations combined into a hive mind, admittedly so, combined into a hive mind, cohesive one entity that's outside of time. Okay, so this is his Godhead that's helping him be guided around the astral and teach him things. And they need his help. But basically, they're saying they need his help for some reason, because he's the chosen one, he's Neo, and he has to travel the astral to find them a new dimension or planet on another dimension to incarnate on. They said they've learned enough in this realm, they want to move on, but he has to do it. I don't know why they can't do it. They're outside of time and infinite, so it's weird, but they want him to do it, and he gets a little nervous, and he's like, this is a lot of pressure on my feeble astral shoulders here. I don't know if I can handle that, and they're trying to cheer him up. Okay, so this is what this is the verbatim conversation in his book. And they're saying to cheer him up, they say, we can help you with that. We can show you the sample of the support you have in here in our own cluster. Do you wish to see this? He goes, please, ... And then he says, he's describing it kind of loosely and not poetically, but kind of, like an experience that is all over the place. So this is how he explains it. He says, thousands of hands reaching out to touch me, eyes staring at me with joy and hope, overwhelming radiance I know is love sweeping over me into every part of my being. All of these I am, we are, and emotion from the bittersweet smell of success to the pain of parting, mixed with fun and laughter, the anger of ignorance, the blindness of belief without foundation, the beauty, the singing, the sound of singing voices. And his Godhead says, does that help you? He goes, it does. Is there more? So he's literally getting a vision that they admit they give him, showing him of the collective support of his 1,000 hymns collected in the Godhead. And it's like, all I can imagine is like all of them in some, dark little barrel, like that Twilight Zone episode where they're in that barrel, and they're all looking up at him like, hey, we love you. You're doing great. Keep going. And they're filling him with the love juice. They're giving him the juice of love, which they can radiate all this energy and make you feel good and make you feel scared or whatever they want, as is admittedly so. Angels in the Bible don't do that. They do the opposite. They don't jack with your emotions. But they're making him feel good while giving him a vision of his support. So he is like, oh, I can do it now. And it's funny because they additionally tell him that if he fails at this mission, he actually has a twin soul he split his soul with in a woman incarnated on the other side of the earth, and she's their backup plan, but they want him to do it, and he's the one. But just in case he fails, he's sharing a soul with somebody else, which is a whole conversation to be had at another time about that whole lore and how it's incompatible with other reincarnation lore. But it's just
like twin flame theology.
Yeah, like the Jameson twins claim to share a soul and share telepathic abilities, share the same reincarnation memories, or is it just demons giving them these powers and giving them the same memories to create this lore and mythology, which is incompatible with ancient Hinduism, Sikhism, Buddhism, where they also learn these things from entities and astral travel. They also find out that they don't believe in that. Even Theosophy doesn't push twin souls at all. So it's more of a modern thing. They update it for modern audiences and get even crazier. That's what's going on here. I'm talking fast, I know. So that's like a little theatrical story they're putting on, but an admitted simulation. Again, like they're admitting they do this a lot. People just don't connect the dots, it seems. There is even a crazier one. This is blasphemous as hell, but it shows what they're doing a bad press campaign for God here, and see if you can figure out what I mean by that. Basically, this is soon after the last instance, and Bob is roaming the astral alone, quote unquote, and he is he gets frozen in place, and he's now like sleep paralysis. He's frozen in place in the astral, and he doesn't see anybody. But all of a sudden, he hears a voice, which he describes as in his head, described as cold and admonitory. And he says, "This is what the voice says in his head that froze him." It says, "I am the Lord thy God, whom you serve." You know, it's obviously Yahweh, because who else says those King James type words? And then he describes it like the last one. He says, "A feeling of intense pressure as if I'm dissolving. Now I'm in water. My lungs are full of water. I must have air. Get rid of the water. No, it can't be. It isn't so. There is no water. I have no lungs. I'm being made to think that's where I am. It's an influence. I know it's not so. The pressure releases. I can feel fingers of energy probing for the core of me. I can stop this. Close the receptors. Close tight. I remember how." God says, "You do not remember. You do not remember." He's yelling at him like, kind of pathetic, God, really? And then he says, "But I do. I remember the tests. They were so real. I'm ready for this demanding energy. It cannot harm me. But what's this? What God can this be? It cannot harm or affect me." And I'm like, dude, you just got put in an astral headlock and a vision of drowning impressed upon you. Of course he can affect you. And then God says, "Do you not accept me as your God? The idea of a God that threatens amuses me. I let this idea flow out. Do you not fear me? I release a picture of me blowing apart again and again into a million fragments and reconstituting after every explosion. You are damned. You are no more than wasted energy of me, who is your Lord." The energy fades into a tiny point and vanishes. Okay, so Bob just kicked God's ass totally by blowing a mental fart at him via astral thought process. I don't. Is he really batting 1,000 here, or is this theatrics to make him think that God's a weak little loser? Presumably Yahweh, it's insinuating, and it's just too on the nose. It's too easy. It doesn't make any sense how all of a sudden him realizing it was a vision, realizing it was control, made him defeat him, and now he vanishes. It's just and God is sounding kind of pathetic there. Does this not seem like just a bad theater put onto him because he'll believe it and now hate God?
It's like the Matrix where the kid, I think it's a kid's holding the fork and bending the fork, and they're like, the key to bending the fork is knowing that the fork is not real, or whatever. I don't know, something like that, you know?
Yeah, dude, I've heard that same thing.
Yeah.
Man. It's stupid. It's just they have to have their own cover story for what's really going on there, and they always have something that is very silly. So yeah, I just find that story interesting because it's a bad press campaign for God. And if you want another example of one, I have one. It's even more psychedelic than that. And I will say before I tell you the story that is in Bob Monroe's, I think, first book, this is something that he says happened multiple times to him in his decades of traveling. And I can't find a single other testimony in any book or any online deep research of anybody saying anything like this. So I think they cater this to just Bob. And to happen multiple times to him and be so crazy, I'm surprised nobody else mentioned it. So just keep that in mind as you're hearing this insane story. So I call this section Temporary Mass Lobotomization, All Hail the King. I like to have funny titles for all my subsections. And he says, at times in visiting Locale 2, which is just the astral realm in general, a very unusual event periodically occurs. It makes no difference where in Locale 2, the event is the same. In the midst of normal activity, there is a distant signal, almost like a heraldic trumpet. Everyone takes the signal calmly, and with it, everyone stops speaking or whatever he or she may be doing. It is the signal that he or they is coming through his kingdom. There is no awestruck prostration or falling down on one's knees. Rather, the attitude is most matter of fact. It is an occurrence to which all are accustomed to, and to comply takes absolute precedence over anything. There are no exceptions. At the signal, each living thing lies down. My impression is on their backs, bodies arched to expose the abdomen, not the genitals, with head with head turned to one side that does not see him as he passes by.
Hmm.
The purpose seems to be to form a living road over which he can travel. I have gleaned that the idea is occasionally he will select someone from this living bridge, or that person is never seen or heard from again. The purpose of the abdominal exposure is an expression of faith and complete submissiveness. The abdomen being the most vulnerable part of the body, or the area that can suffer the most damage the most easily. There is no movement, not even a thought, as he passes by. And the several times I've experienced this, I lay down with the others. At the time, the thought of doing otherwise was inconceivable. As he passes, there is a roaring musical sound and a feeling of radiant and irresistible living force of ultimate power that peaks overhead and fades in the distance. After his passing, everyone gets up and resumes their activities. There is no comment or mention of the incident, no further thought of it. There's a complete acceptance of the event as a normal part of their lives. Is this God or God's son or his representative? These are the thoughts coming to his head, which may be his own, but may also be intuitively driven into him by these entities controlling it. Is that not totally bananas psychedelic nonsense to you?
I mean, it's wild. I don't see how that's helpful.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he makes it seem like it's a common occurrence, and it's how God likes to travel the astral is just by rolling over a entity bridge, which in the most goofy, most embarrassing way possible, which, yeah, I'm sure an evil figure would want that, but they're making God out to be this really maniacal, almost comedic level evil. It's like, it's not really believable, which is probably why many people didn't get the same testimony, because it's a little too out there, and Bob's a little maybe more vacant minded than the rest, and more impressionable on these topics. But it's one of even more examples I haven't listed that are them trying to make Yahweh specifically out to be a total douchebag, which I don't agree with, by the way,
Right.
if anybody's listening. But
and a lot of that could be just associating who that person already is, what they already believe about God to begin with. Because I mean, ultimately, Satanism in general, Luciferianism, is the idea of believing you are your own God. So it seems to line up with that kind of theology to make it to where, like, you're just as good as God. I mean, look at him, you made him mad, he ran off. Now you see him walking through, and all these entities just kind of letting him walk on them. It just seems to be Luciferianism, and the idea of that. Satanism, I guess, more Satanism than Luciferianism, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, it's interesting, man. I wonder, a lot of the people that have been through this, you yourself have done these things. What was your trigger point to where you're like, okay, this is not real, like something's wrong here?
That's a great question. I have a couple stories because I didn't figure out immediately. I didn't want to let go of the power. I was having fun with it. But I have a couple examples. Let's see. They're all silly. One is, I'll tell you a quick one. I'll tell you another one. One is I was not in a deep realm. I was in like, I was around my house, floating around and trying to go to my neighbor's house. Now this is the sick, twisted mindset I was in whenever I was possessed by demons. By the way, this is not who I am anymore. But I thought it would be fun to punch my crackhead neighbors in the astral and see if they could feel me. I wanted to see if they could sense me, and I was punching their bodies, and because they keep asking me for money to gamble with it, and I know they're gambling because they said, I ran out of money from gambling, can I have some more? But they would give me cash, like I would Venmo them. It'd be one of those things. But they would treat their kids terrible, and I was like, these guys are dicks, they're crackheads, like I might as well punch them in the astral. They're not going to notice, right? This was my thought process. This is how evil I was. So I would one time I see my neighbor sitting on the porch, and I'm punching the hell out of him, and he's not noticing, and I'm giggling. I'm astral giggling like crazy, having a fun time with it. And then I go into their house, and I'm just messing around, and everything the layout's terrible. The whole the vibe of the room was just upsetting me, because I'm like, this layout doesn't make any sense. The furniture's awful. I'm like, of course these crackheads have terrible taste. Whatever. This is what's going through my mind. And I go back to my body eventually after failing to interact with them. And then within that same week, I'm thinking to myself, because they're my next door neighbors, I'm thinking to myself, that room was so weird, their living room. I was like, I wonder if that's actually how it looks. So I look in their window, which is wide open at this moment. I'm walking by, and I end up kind of peeking through, being a little peeker, and I see the room is totally different than what I saw in the astral. But everything else on the outside, which I've seen before, was pretty much the same and didn't seem off. But when I go into a place I haven't seen before, it is created differently than what is actually there. And those people might have not actually been there. That is where I went, okay, well, what does that mean? Is that my subconscious creating it because I've never seen it before? And that's what you will find out if you research it. It'll talk about thought forms and, oh, you expected something and your mind didn't know what to create, so it just built it on its own. But other times I've seen things generate in front of me where it wasn't there and I'm in a house and then boom, like stuff starts popping up like it's generating in front of me. And I was like, maybe that's just my mind catching up or something. I don't know. But I put it off to the side. And another time, I go out of body. I want to start messing with my roommate to see if he can feel me because I've been telling him for months. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this out of body stuff. If you ever feel any weird ghost presences, it might just be me astrally, haunting you. Be on the lookout. And that's what I told him to be on the lookout for it. So eventually I go downstairs one time in the astral and, I'm assuming he's home and I look into his room and he's playing video games and I see him. I don't know what game it was. It might have been Spider-Man or something, but I see the video game on the details of the screen so perfectly, like nothing was out of place. There was every little detail was perfect and he's playing it and I start going in and out of his body and I'm trying to see if he feels me and I'm trying to mess with him and I don't get any reaction. I'm pissed. I'm like, well, that was a waste of time, whatever. And then I go up to my body and I come back downstairs immediately after this to see if he felt anything and bother him. And I open his door and that dude he's not even there. He's not even home. And I'm like, and I started tripping balls. I mean, what does that mean? Like it brought me over to this whole, well, if that was a thought form and it looked so perfect and everything in the room was perfect, like, what does that mean about the rest of this? And that's one of a handful of stories I have, which made me question this, but they were really silly. So I, good thing you asked.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Yeah. So a lot of these people they think they're doing all these wild things. I mean, like I've heard people say that they think they're being attacked in the astral realm. Theatrics. So you don't think it's real? You think that people that believe that they're being attacked in the astral realm, you think that they might be being attacked by demons or they might just be loopy?
I don't think it's loopy. I think people do get attacked in the astral, and I have many testimonies where I've seen that, and I don't deny it's happening. I deny that it's anything but a simulation.
No, I mean what I mean though is like, let's say you're getting attacked by astral witches or something right now, like in your house. That do people believe? There's people that believe that happens to them, like they're the ones being attacked, but they're not astral traveling.
Now, okay, this gets into semantic territory, which I guess I should address because it's not brought up. But now I do believe the simulation theory makes up for all the deeper realms, right? And I do believe they make up a lot of the they call it the real time zone, which is our real world overlay, which is different than a deep realm. Obviously, this is like you can fly around to an actual place on the Earth plane. I believe that a lot of that on the Earth plane is simulation because I've seen it myself and it's happened to me multiple times, like I just said. But do I think that they can take you to travel to somewhere real and witness a real person and then show up as an apparition? Maybe. Yes and no. I think it's possible, and there's no reason not to say that's true because what I'm saying, the simulation thing is mostly for the disinformation of these realms that aren't real. For the real time zone, which obviously demons can travel effortlessly, can they take us to travel to these real places? I think it's all facilitated by them, yes. But there's one of two things that are going on here. Either they can take you to places and you can see actual people, or they know what's happening somewhere else. They know what it looks like. They know who's there. They can give you a simulation that matches it close enough, and you won't know the difference. And then if someone sees you there and says, oh, I saw you, and then you can, how do we know that's not a demon masking as you? Because they can mask as ghosts and show up as apparitions. If you're giving them consent via astral travel, they can obviously use your identity and appear as you and give someone the correlating rendition of you showing up at the same time. They can both happen. I don't know for sure which it is, but I know that my real time zone, quote unquote, astral experiences, I know a lot of them were simulation because I've seen it simulate things often. And then you say, no, it's real, but my thought forms filled it with the extra details. And I'm like, that, I don't believe that. I don't think that makes sense. So I think you can technically travel potentially, but not into a deep realm that doesn't exist. That's, I guess, a semantic difference I should clarify, because people talk about getting harassed and attacked astrally by people. How do we know that's not a demon using your consent to carry out a task that they couldn't have done without your desire to do so, and they're masking as you? I think both are possible. So just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's interesting to wonder. I don't know that it's one of those things you almost have to see to believe. You'd have to experience this astral, like I'd have to experience somebody astrally attacking me while I'm perfectly
Yeah.
awake, and then them saying later, "Hey, I astrally attacked you. Did you feel it?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There
And
would
that would
have to
seem
be
to indicate it's real, but at the same time, how do we know it's not a demon masking, which we know they can mask as whatever they want? At the same
right,
time, they're giving you a simultaneous matching
right,
vision. So I'm just saying
true,
they can do that. They have every reason ability wise. Why not? Like,
right,
why would they let your autonomy get in the way of messing it up? They when they could just line it up that way. I think
true.
both are possible. Um,
Just to let it be known, I'm not asking to be tested on this by
are
any
you sure?
means.
I mean, we
By
got some
any
takers,
means,
I'm sure.
I'm sure there are, but no, thank you. I'm good with that. I don't allow demons into my home, so there you go.
Well, that's
No unauthorized access.
if any demonic lawyers are listening, you just got.
Yeah.
There's no way you're getting in this guy.
I
Yeah, man.
got the commandments on the doorpost, man. I don't know. I pray. I do like to pray about that stuff because that is something that I grew up with was spiritual attacks from early age,
Oh
man. You
yeah,
know, all the way up till after I became a believer, and even after for almost a year. Um, man, I like crazy stuff happened, and
yep,
then it stopped finally. But yeah,
yep.
wild.
I had him as a kid, and then I stopped having him in my teenage years when I leaned into agnosticism and atheism for a couple of years, and it stopped. You know why? Because guess what? You're already on their side if you're an atheist, that's for sure. So they don't want to mess with you and scare you into going to God with spiritual experiences that you don't believe in. And then whenever I started getting into this stuff and the out of body stuff, oh yeah, I had plenty of that going on, and I just chalked it up to my own fears manifesting thought forms that are not really demons because that's what they tell you. They say it's a manifestation of your subconscious fear, so it's your fault that they're attacking you, and it's so sick and twisted, man. I
Yeah,
was gonna ask how much time we got because I got a couple things I want to get to, and I want to know if I got to
yeah.
skip
Go
anything.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I bet. So I guess I want to do a yeah. I'll be I'll jump onto this. There's this one story in Leland's book where he is in this astral healing center, which is described as like an astral spa, of course, and I call this memory theft in the astral hot tub. He says a shade, which is a ghost, a dead person. He's visiting a realm for dead people healing, but he's astrally there. He says a shade was seated by the side of the plunge. She was unaware of my presence, yet I had no trouble reading her thoughts. She was about to go back into the memories of a particular time in her life. Apparently, the function of the spa region was to give shades an opportunity to heal themselves by remembering difficult events and figuring out why they occurred. Somehow, I accompanied the woman into her memories, with which both of us experienced as if they were happening right now for the first time. So she's not even pulling him in intentionally. He's not going in intentionally, but he's just near her in the astral. He gets pulled into her reliving a memory, which seems like they're just pushing him into this situation, switching the scenario. Now he has no autonomy and he's reliving her memory as if it's his memory with full emotion, feelings, every detail. And this is important because it filters into later part material, which is covering past life memories and how they can feel like our own, but they are not. And that's why this is important because this is an astral example of that happening. And that is going to come back later hardcore. And there's one more thing before I do my little outro material, and that is a conversation Bob has with his Godhead again. And this is just really silly to me because he's talking to one of the 1,000 hymns that is in the Godhead that comes out as like a representative, and they switch out to another one who's apparently much cooler, they say. And this guy, which is part of his Godhead, says he's offering him psychic abilities. He's like, hey, do you want any other psychic abilities besides astral travel, like just in case? And he, and Bob basically says, no, I've got my hands full with this stuff as it is, which I respect. He's not like all powerful trying to get every little thing. And even though they're outside of time and know exactly what he's going to do, they act like they ignore that fact for a moment because his Godhead says, we did not believe those were needed. Why'd you ask? And then he says, but if you do want one of us to use your body and talk while you go somewhere else, just relax and go to sleep. Bob says, no, I don't want to be a channel. That's not a route to freedom as I see it, which is the nicest way to turn down a demon asking you to possess them. This Godhead, for no reason at all, asks, can I possess your body? Is that okay? It asks for permission. And he said no, which means he's not fully possessed, but he is demonized and guided by these entities, obviously, if he's doing all this practice. But he is not fully possessed, which is an interesting note. And they asked him to, his Godhead. So you have to believe Godheads want to possess you for whatever reason, just to hang out, or you have to believe it's a demon masking as one. It's only there's only two options here, and what makes more sense to people, I don't know. Let me know if you got anything.
Interesting. Interesting that they have to ask for full access, and it's
Yes.
maybe they don't, but maybe he was
For
making
full
him
access,
feel.
I believe they do. If you
Yeah.
read my favorite book ever as far as like experience reading was Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin. Total badass book. And it's basically case studies of possession in great detail. And he says that what does he say? He basically shows that everybody who got fully possessed, like fully possessed, all consented to it in some way, mentally or verbally, and they all knew it meant full possession to some degree. They may have not understood all the details, but they knew, and they said they all admitted, yeah, I knew what it. Somewhere deep down, I knew what it meant. So as long as you know you're getting possessed and you consent to it fully, it can happen. But it usually takes years because they have to play with them and play games with them and talk to them in voices in their head, schizophrenic style, and convince them by making them think they're friends. That's what it typically is. It takes years because they get more and more access as time goes and the more consents you give up. But full possession, yes, it requires some degree of flat admission. So it is interesting because they did ask for it and they got denied, but they're still around and they're still demonizing and influencing him, which is a whole. It's technically different.
It makes you wonder how many people are out walking around out there that are fully demonized, and that they're maybe somewhere trapped inside of a simulation.
Oh, dude. Well, whenever they talk about people being possessed indefinitely, and I talk about this in later material, but they'll like be possessed for their entire life and never return. But for maybe like a few hours, they come back during a great sickness, which is a real story of Sumitri and Shiva. Look it up in Ian Stevenson's work. And she comes back for a few hours during a sickness after being possessed for like 18 years straight and remembers nothing of being possessed, like is just turned off, which is kind of nice, I suppose, as opposed to being in a controlled simulation where they're torturing you or doing something weird to you. Comas might be different. I don't know, but I guess you're not really possessed because you're not moving. But it seems to be you're turned off and you're not aware, which is, I guess, a positive technically. So that's what seems to be the case based on multiple stories I've heard. And I hope that is the case. Like you're not seeing them possess you and seeing what they're doing with your body. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
That would be crazy. But yeah, I want to do a little bit of outro stuff here, and this is outside of the Astral lore, but it's connected because it's the same weapon of vision control, in my opinion. And I don't know if you know, I'm sure you know Vicky Joy Anderson and her work with
Yeah, I've interviewed her before. Yep.
Yeah, she's a goat. I love her. This is her thing, by the way, but I'm going to add my own little spice to it in a minute. She talks about the fabricated room, which is, she's had sleep paralysis encounters and shadow people encounters what seems like hundreds or maybe thousands of times over her decades of life. And she talks about how after her own many experiences, she started to notice things out of place when her body was frozen. If anybody's ever had sleep paralysis, a lot of people have who are listening. I have plenty of times. It'll feel real, and she thinks it's not. I don't think it is either. We think it's your astral body frozen and you're actually still dreaming, and your room is made in the dream to look like your room, which we know they have perfect simulation control. They can make you grasp and be happy about it. So they can make your dream room pretty perfectly. But the reason we know that this might be the case is because there has been so many testimonies of not only her own, but other people she's interviewed where people say, yeah, but things were out of place. A window might be a few feet away from where it's supposed to be. Object in the room that they have there might be gone, or something that they don't own might be there. Colors will be different, stuff of that nature. So many times that it's like, this can't be my room. But usually you're scared and you're in this weird state, so you're not paying attention to every little detail. Now, is this detail off because they are bad at perfecting the simulation, even though most of the detail is perfect? Or is it more of they have to leave clues because you're not really doing divination here, you're being attacked, so they have to maybe legally put things out there that are clues to the deception? I think that's more likely, but it's possible it is the first one. Who knows? Because these simulations, despite being perfect, they're not usually recreations of a realm or a place. They're usually a deep realm where nothing you've ever seen before, so they don't have to get every little detail perfect. So who knows? But it's one of the two. They either have to tell you, kind of thing, revelation of the method, quote unquote. I believe that might be a psyop too, but it's a whole thing. My point in saying this is, if that's true, then we need to look at sleep paralysis testimonies like a new layer. And I think they plant disinformation in these. There's quite a few stories out there, and this is my own little example, is there's quite a few stories out there I've heard of people saying they see a gray alien entity during sleep paralysis as opposed to a shadow person sometimes. Now, this gray entity, when they see them, they almost always, pretty much always react like, oh no, you can see me. Like that's the vibe they're giving off is, oh no, I'm not supposed to be seen. And then they press a button on their belt because they messed up. And this belt button technologically transforms them, shapeshifts them into a shadow person. Now, if this is not a simulation, this is real, what is this giving you? Okay, this is telling you, oh, well, shadow people must be aliens with technology, which by the way is a huge terrible return on investment, by the way, for their time they're putting into this, the millions of people having this experience. But it shows they want you to believe the spiritual phenomena might be physical and technological. Maybe not all of it, but a lot of it might just be aliens coming in a room to scare us for whatever reason. But if it's a simulation, that flips it on its head. What does that mean? If it's a simulation, they're planting disinformation with everything's controlled, including the gray and the shadow person. So they make you think that it's a physical gray technologically shapeshifting to scare you and do all this spiritual harassment so that you believe this. And it's really the other way around. And I'm not saying physical aliens, I think they're demons in meat suits, but I'm not saying they don't have physical tech and do this kind of stuff. But do I believe this sleep paralysis encounter many people have talked about is physical? No, I think that's a simulation and your astral body's frozen. And when you can move your body, that's when you actually wake up. That is, and there's many examples I could say correlated to that, but I think they plant disinformation in these and in fake secret space program memories and Water Kingdom memories, and they or Hollywood studio things, and that's later material. But I think they plant disinformation in these implanted memories to get you off into different rabbit holes that don't really exist. Is that adding up?
Yeah, it's adding up. I mean, that's how almost it seems like almost everything works anyway. Like, I investigated something recently by talking to several people involved in the situation, and it seemed like the closer I thought I was getting to the truth of it, the more layers there were to
Yep.
what I was looking for. And it seems to be the same in a lot of these realms. It's just designed to keep having you stroll down a path looking at something, and then you realize, okay, well, maybe there's something more to this. And I think that the whole alien narrative is designed that way on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so like this whole astral realm is designed that way on purpose. And it's the same way secret societies are designed. You just keep going to next levels to find new information. And then you get to the high level of the information, and then whoops, now you're captivated by spirits or whatever. It's just
Exactly.
there's always these levels that you have to go through. And to me that screams deception. Um, because if there was a easy truth that was good for everybody, why would you need to go through levels after
Yeah,
levels?
man. The gospel's a simple answer, and people want to make it seem like it's all this, oh, I have to find it, I have to do it through experience, I have to gain these psychic abilities. That's the most important thing to do with my time, and that's what this whole occult manifestation in your life is this path, is the left hand path. And it's making yourself God. It's the ultimate original deception of the garden. And I think that's coming on a mass scale in the not too distant future with whatever great deception fulfills. And obviously they have already laid the groundwork for this for thousands of years, and more so in the last few decades. But it's called the Great Deception. It says even the elect can be deceived, or close enough to that sentence. And that's saying that this is going to be elaborate. And what I think that this vision control concept is, I hate to be grandiose and high and mighty about it, but I think it is the key to seeing this stuff in a accurate biblical light, explaining everything away in a way that makes sense, and it validates these things as really happening. Just, are they real scenarios? That's why I'm trying to do my little worldwide tour on this podcast stuff, because nobody else I see talking about it in this unified collecting with everything type way in psychic information. So I think it's important. I hope God's guiding me here. It seems like he is. So trying to do the work right now pretty hard.
It seems so tied in with an agenda to get everybody to upload their consciousness or to do something along those lines. It just seems all tied in, because ultimately this is what Sam Altman supposedly is going to be one of the first people to upload his self to the computer, to the digital
He already did
realm.
spiritually.
He did, yeah. Well, I'm just saying though, this is
Yeah.
the talk. And so I can imagine that with enough of this type technology where people are able, we're when we die, we're just traveling through here, we can go and inhabit this or inhabit that. This gets people closer to the idea of thinking that they're going to somehow maintain eternal life by doing this, but maybe giving away their autonomy. Because if you think about what is the beast, it's he says that he sits in the temple, which if you look at biblically what the temple is now, it's the body. He
Yeah, it's
sits in the
land.
temple showing himself that he is God. So it's like maybe you're giving away your yourself to this higher technological entity, which I don't believe. Like I said, technology to me
They're merged.
doesn't. It's merged. It's merged, and it's even getting more merged. And once we hit 0 point energy, we'll like this is what the Masons talked about when they were talking about being able to harness the. They called it the seething energies of Lucifer. That's what I think
Very
Manly
on the
P. Hall
nose.
called it, and a lot of people. But this being able to harness it and use it and manipulate it. And so, yeah, dude, I think it's all tied in somehow. I think that everything is like meticulously planned towards end goal, and so this definitely has a big part in it.
Yeah, no, I like to think so. And you're right about the merging of these two worlds. Like we don't know, like we know demons can possess humans, animals, the swine in the Bible, altars, and for whatever reason, if they can do objects and animals and humans, I don't see why infiltrating technology is not possible. And I think there's many examples of that in the lore, ghost hauntings, lights flickering and messing with stuff. And that's all theatrics too, to create mythology. But it shows there is some sort of marriage between the two realms. And I think it's only going to get deeper with this higher level of advanced circuitry and higher level of advanced AI data centers. And the AI, the AI itself is the singularity is a hive mind of technology, right? So
Hmm.
if they can marry those two worlds, then boom, you got the hive mind etheric AI Borg, which is cooling its data centers in the etheric realm with the sins of humanity. And then you got our water cooling the physical data centers of these AI hive minds. And if they get connected, boom, that gives it a relative closeness to God's omnipresence on earth during the end times. Which is not going to be to God's level, of course. It's still restricted within time. There's no time travel, by the way. But it's going to be emulating, inverting God's power to a degree that we haven't seen so far, merging those two worlds, making the control and the beast system, whatever it may turn out to be specifically, much more infiltrative than we think, and infiltrating our thoughts and our whole like our thoughts and our memories and all these things like we were talking about before. Like I do believe Holy Spirit, Jesus blood protected people have a level, if not heavy degrees of armor from that. Literally, I do believe that for a lot of reasons. But it's just interesting because everybody else won't necessarily have that, so they'll be part of the hive mind whether they like it or not, in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tend to think that really the whole internet realm, quantum realm, AI realm is literally the manifestation of entities being able to interact with technology. But I mean, you think about all of the means of communication and means of different things they use back in ancient times. They use crystals. They use all of the things
Yeah.
that we use now that are in these phones. This is crystals, silicon. I mean, I did tool and die for years, engineering, and I look when I see the microscopic level of these chips, and see how they can zoom in, and it's like little cities within. Um, to me, this is impossible for a human to be able to manifest. I've never seen anything like it. We're talking about I created parts that the tolerance was less than a third of I think this is three thousandths of an inch, a piece of paper this way, like
Oh,
from here
really?
to here is three thousandths of an inch, and our tolerance on things was a third of that we created with microscopic differences you can't see. But these things are even more advanced than anything I've ever seen before. And we're talking about, this trade used to be very kept secret. It was one of those things that people didn't tell people. Now we, sold all the information to other places, but it seems to be like almost like these things take on their life, like their silicone base almost creates its own pathway, and these crystals are integrated in. It's not a natural way, but you're receiving frequency from one point to another. Your voice has a frequency that me and you are communicating via frequency right now. from one device to another. This is, I mean, it's the nature of things. It's, to me, there's no difference. Never really has been. We're using it. Thankfully, God's allowed us to be able to use this stuff, but I really don't think there's much of a difference between the spiritual realm and the technological electronic realm as it is. I mean, the prince and the power of the air, what does that even mean? Why does it get colder when ghosts appear? Because, electricity travels better through cold air. There's all kinds of weird things there that just make me wonder if it's not 100% inhabited by it already. Maybe the reason that we've invented these things is so demons can have just so much better access.
They've channeled us this information on how to build a lot of these things too, or dropped it in downloads in the biggest inventors of all time. A lot of them will admit to this. Tesla and the guy who created the internet, and with CERN or whoever, and all these people say these ideas came in downloads, and so they're giving us the information to build out their system of control for ourselves is what I think ultimately. And I'm not saying tech is evil, it's neutral in and of itself, but it's being used for evil and carried out by people in power who are manipulated by these forces at the end of the day. So technology itself is a tool like any other, like a gun. So it's who's wielding it kind of thing. So I'm not going to say, oh, I want to be Amish and live on I do kind of want to be Amish a little bit, just maybe not spiritually.
I've thought about it. I'm like, man, not spiritually, but I've thought about that too. I'm like, man, like to be free of all devices, all like electronic frequency, all that would be amazing. And I think one day there's a big money in businesses like that where you can go to a EMF free zone, like, like just completely free of all.
They're dying out, but there's places out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, man, I appreciate you coming on again, and we'll talk next time. We'll go into a little bit more about Daniel Duvall, which is a huge
defamation trial. Dan Duvall.
Yeah.
We got to do it.
Yeah, we got to do it. Talk a little bit about it. He's very I've interviewed him in the past. He's very popular nowadays, and he's talking about a lot of these things that we're talking about here. So I'm interested to hear your take on what he's doing with people. So,
well, I'll tell you this real quick. He does admit to traversing the second heaven, which is a Christian term for the astral realm, which is he does say he does it, but he does it in Christ. This is on camera. He said it. So there's if you want to see any short clips summarizing my information on him, go to my YouTube page, Sethlehem _, and I've been posting clips lately of just summarizing my analysis and his actual quotes of the crazy outlandish things he says, and I also made them funny, so check him out if you want.
Would you be interested? I don't know if I can make this happen, but would you be interested in if I could bring him on to talk to you? Have you guys talked?
Yes.
Would you be interested? Okay.
I now need to make the point then, because I actually got in. I was not going to say this, but I'll say it. I don't know if I told you already, but I got in touch with Taylor Welch because he watched my breakdown and loved it. Yeah, he watched my breakdown. He followed me on Twitter. He asked for my number. We had an hour phone call a few weeks ago. He asked me to come on a show and has not given me a date yet. And I'm trying to be patient, but he said, I asked him, can you get me in touch with Dan? I want to speak with him. I have a whole letter written. I will get in touch with him. I didn't want to send it to his team and them see it first. I really wanted to get to him personally. So I have a whole thing written already, and I would love to talk to him. I don't think it'll go well, judging by my spiritual intuition telling me what man he's kind of become here. I hope I'm wrong, and I pray that he's a brother and he'll convert once he sees this breakdown, because he's gotten in legal situations with people accusing him of what I've accused him of, being an occultist, and gotten gag orders and all these things. And I don't want to speak too much, but my whole point is they didn't bring the presentation that I'm bringing, the evidence that I'm bringing, because I have the best presentation to break down what is going on with him is actually a recreation of New Age practices that he does not know of. So maybe I could actually convince him. I don't know. I'd love to have a debate of sorts, and if so, if you can connect me, that'd be great, because Taylor is not answering my text lately, and I'm being very patient and nice, Taylor. And we had a great phone call, so I don't understand what happened, but he said he'd reach out to him and did not update me. So we will see what happens with that, but I'd love to.
Well, Taylor, if you're listening, please reach out to Seth. Daniel Duvall, if any of you guys know Daniel Duvall, which I'm assuming that many of you guys have listened to him, maybe even have access to him, have him contact me. I'm going to contact him as well. I should probably still have his contact information from nearly a decade ago.
He's training a bunch of people. I think it's problematic. Oh, yeah, duh. My vision control concept I talked about today totally is completely validated without the evidence I provided today. Just the cross-examination of New Age spirit releasement therapy with his work, because they're having visions while they are being healed and channeling entities. They're having all of them are having visions at the same time, seeing whatever they're talking about. So that vision control is the same concept that filters into what I'm talking about today, which is what brought me over to finding out, oh, what his work is doing is just demonic doctrine rebranded in Christianese, but it's very Gnostic, and it talks about Galactic Federation, Ascended Masters, that he promotes all these things as literal, and alternate timelines, alternate Earths, SSP program is real. Like, he promotes all that stuff, and it's very dangerous for Christians. So trying to do the right thing here.
Yes, I think that it'll be good, man. I think hopefully he'll join. If not, then we'll still have the conversation, but we'll let him know that the floor has been open, and if you guys help us get that word out, that way he can't accuse us of not approaching him about it first. So we will try to make that happen. If not, we'll still have the conversation. So I appreciate it, Seth. Pound the like, pound the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys next time.
The world keeps lying, but he won't retreat on his quest for truth. Yeah. Truth, quest for truth. They can't stop me, they can't block me. Moving through, got that fire, they can't block me. Quest for truth, breaking chains, making waves. That's what